Earlier today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Jonathan Twomley, and we talked about a report from TREP that there's $1 trillion in commercial debt that is likely to be in trouble and likely lead to many defaults. In that conversation with Jonathan Twomley, he let it be known that is only institutional quality products with $1 trillion in likely defaults. Why is that important to you and I? Because there is at least another $500 billion, if not trillions of dollars, in small commercial properties, 5 to 40 units. Now, we are going to have a conversation with Mr. Stephen Dowd from Velocity Mortgage, because one of the tools you have to learn to use is the 50-40-10. We will get into that later. But let's welcome Steve to the show. How you doing, Stephen?
Good, and self?
I'm doing well. Please do the marketing thing, which I sometimes forget.
I was just going to say, just going to remind you, but again, although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel are that of my own. So let's get it going.
So let me set the stage for you and the audience in why Velocity and the 50-40-10 is likely a tool, and I would even say likely a critical tool for our followers. So here you go.
Right.
As Jonathan said in the video, there are plenty of owners of 5 to 40 unit buildings who bought at the wrong time, have debt that is resetting starting in 2025, which means they get notified in June or July of 2024.
Right.
And they're not going to have the cash in refi, right? So the idea is, hey, you bought it for 400 grand, you got $300,000 in debt, pretty standard loan.
Right.
Unfortunately, rates have gone up, expenses have gone up. And now the bank's going to look at that deal and it's not worth 400, it's worth 300, which means they will only lend 200. And of course, if you happen to be fortunate enough to have 100 grand laying around, you can send that in, you're good to go. But how many folks don't? Most don't have, or even if they have it, don't want to because that's their reserve. Right. So what is going to happen starting in July is we are going to start to see a lot of small multifamilies listed. They're going to be listed at stupid prices. In this example, they'll probably be listed for 350 grand, which is, again, in this environment, the wrong price. But they're going to be listed at that price for emotional reasons. Because I paid 400, I owe 300, I got to get the bank paid, I got to get my agent paid, and I don't want to lose any money, right? Or I don't want to write a check at closing. It's not going to sell. If the building's worth 3 and they want 350, it's going to sit. Right. However, if you can come in and understand how to use the 50-40-10, maybe you can pay 350.
Agreed.
Maybe. Right?
Yeah.
So again,
you got to do the work.
Got to do the work, man. So what do you think of all that? What do you, because it's coming. I mean, Jonathan said it's mathematical certainty. You can argue when it starts and you can argue the magnitude, but the fact is it's coming.
Yeah. Just how bad and how long. Right. Right. I mean, in reality, believe it or not, we've had a small uptick in small balance commercial loans year over year. And so there has been, some positives.
It's coming.
But it may be coming. But at least through our specific programs, being a little bit more stabilized because they're not short-term loans. There was no bridged loans or syndications, things of that nature. So anybody that passed through our doors got a 30-year fixed.
Exactly.
Right. 30-year.
You don't have the 5-year refi. This is what Jonathan is saying. You bought in 2020, small balance loan through a community bank. You had 5 years. You have to refi. The community bank's going to say, no, thank you. Now what? The answer is sell. That's what's coming.
Yep. Well, I've mentioned it to multiple clients of mine as well in the loan, professional businesses as far as what business is out there. Because like you said, I've read the same kind of reports that Jonathan had kind of looked up. $2 trillion of commercial papers, looking to, mature by 2025. So like he said, that's mainly just the institutional financing. Then there's also the private lending world, as well as the non-QM space and things of that nature. So there's going to be some pain, and people are either going to have to sell or potentially come to me. So either way, not only the 50-40-10 to structure the financing in a way to have a cash flow, but also the fact that the term of the loan being more stabilized at 30 years, but also if needed to try to ride that either appreciation up or stability, you can get up to 10 years of an interest-only payment option. So that does give you some flexibility.
Yeah, I forgot about that 10-year, up to 10 years interest only, really while you're kind of stabilizing the units or whatnot.
Yep.
And the other thing to realize is people are going to have to calculate the blended interest rate,
Yep.
right? So it's a relatively simple math equation. So you take 50% of the loan times, call it 9%.
Right.
Is that 9%? Then
That's
you could
very
take,
fair. That's where we're at. Eight nine
yeah,
nine
then
if you want to be exact. But who's
yeah,
counting?
so yeah, let's call it 9%. Yeah, let's round it up. And then you could take
I'm Asian.
40%.
Sorry, numbers matter.
Numbers matter. All right, fine, 899. Then you take 40%. And you know what? Because you are overpaying, and this is why the 50-40-10 is powerful. You can
Yep.
say, hey, the building's really worth 300. I'm going to overpay at 350, but you have to take back 40% as a second at
Hmm.
2%, one
Right.
and a half,
Yep.
whatever. You can multiply those together and get a blended interest rate. Let's say if 50% of your debt's at 9 and 40% at 2, your blended interest rate's got to be like 6 and an eighth, something like that. It's going to be pretty low.
Yeah.
Um, so, and again, you could structure them 30-year fixed, right? It, wins the 40-year balloon. And there's all
Yep.
kinds of things you could do with that 40%. And then you're only getting in for 10%.
Right.
Most of the stuff today in commercial, guys,
Yep.
35% down, best case. You should
Right.
plan for 40%.
Right.
So you got to understand the tools. The people that are going to dominate this crisis that Jonathan and I see coming are the people that know how to use the financing tools. And that's why I'm so glad you and Velocity are here, because that 90% CLTV is magic.
I would agree because again, just having an extra tool in the toolbox, given certain circumstances that would allow you to apply that type of structure is just a winning formula. I mean, we've done it multiple times.
Yeah,
I've
multiple
done it
times.
for one
Yeah.
of, the amigos. I mean, I've done
Yeah.
over 22 of those, and the majority of them have had seller seconds taking the 10-year balloon at 1% interest only. So when you can blend that with that 899, I mean, at
Yeah.
90% leverage, you got a great chance of having the property cash flowing from day one, putting
And
10%
that's key.
down, giving the seller close to his price. You get your
Yeah.
terms. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a win-win. So just got to do the work, but they're out there.
Yeah. It's amazing. And again, the other things that we haven't talked about in a while, a lot of people talk about house hacking and fourplexes and FHA 5% down and all of that.
Right.
We got to remember the great Arnold Schwarzenegger started his investing career and became a millionaire because he bought a sixplex,
Right.
right?
I
And
remember we
lived in
talked
one
about
of
that.
the units. Yeah. So
Hmm.
again, you will allow people to buy commercial and live in one of the units.
Yes. So on top of all the, 90% CLTV or the 50-40-10, the interest only payment option, now you're also allowed to live in one of the units, like you said, and now do apartment hacking to
Yeah.
where if you structure the deal right, you could be walking away rent free in a sense and having other people pay your mortgage and it cash flowing. And it could be a beautiful thing. You just got to really do the work and run the numbers. But I've seen a lot of areas that are under, rented, and that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Finding, diamonds in the rough, good locations, good bones. But I don't want to give away the information. But I just talked to, one of our repeat clients
Yeah.
from the show, by the way. I don't want to
Okay.
say his name to give a shot. I don't want to give away his because he's got a pretty unique name. So
Okay.
I'm sure if
That's
somebody
cool.
heard it, be like, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We know who he is. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I want people to realize if you go back, if you're like you're an OG on my channel, I've told you, I've said this repeatedly. My plan
Mhm.
over the last couple of years was to buy residential, which I have. Then, when I see the stress building in multifamily, the fives to 40s, I will 1031 out of high priced homes into distressed assets. And again, when I say it's a distressed asset, it might be the building, it might be the seller, or it might be the debt. I
Right.
believe what's coming is going to be a lot of distressed debt. And if I could come in with this new 50-40-10, which, oh, by the way, is not a tool I had last time, which I wish I had,
Right.
I'm going to be able to take my pile of cash, which I've been sitting on, and deploy it a lot more. Because I only got to bring in 10%. It's going to be wild to do. It's going to be a great game.
I think so. I mean, with another tool in your toolbox, I mean, I can only imagine what you're going to be chopping down when there's blood in the streets. And so,
I'm going to be playing Monopoly. I'm going to be playing
for
Monopoly
real, I know.
dude, I'm going to be able to roll my dice 5 times while everybody else gets one roll. I'm going to be cheating like hell. It's just
I
a
just
game,
thought of
man.
a great, yeah, I just thought of a great Halloween costume for you. You could be the Monopoly guy, you know what I mean, with a what's that called? An monocle, and there he is. See? Yeah, that's you playing for
Yeah,
real. Just picked up
Monopoly
Boardwalk.
guy. Yeah, sitting on a pile of or the cash. And you, I don't know if you can see it, but there's one green house and four red hotels at the very bottom.
Yeah, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So there you go, man.
Oh,
Play
that's
Monopoly
funny.
for real. 50, 40, 10 is going to be magical. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and ask more questions about it, where should we send them?
Again, SDAO at velocity, the word mortgage spelled out.com. In the subject line, please put the acronym ORAAT to make it past the firewall. In the body of the email, just maybe a brief description, what you're looking for. Address would be great, at least city and state to make sure we lend there. Mid FICO score really help as well. And then best phone number to reach you at, and typically 24, 40 hours. I'll be in touch.
There you go. And again, folks, we actually have a deep dive playlist on this channel. One of those deep dives is Stephen Dow going into the 50, 40, 10. But you know what? Send him an email. He's a great guy. You will like talking to him. Thank you, buddy. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Mike.
you.